We're going to take a look at how to simplify expressions. But before we got to do that, we have to take a look at a lot of definitions of things that we're going to be doing. First thing we're going to take a look at is something called like terms. Well, there's a word up here that we're going to hear a lot in math class, but most students really don't know what it means, and it's the word terms. Terms is a very simple idea in definition. Terms are just things added together. So if we had something that looks like this, like 2x, 3y, and a 4, here we have three terms, and the things that we're adding together are a 2x, a 3y, and a 4. So it's kind of like the pieces of addition are called terms. Now, what does it mean to be like terms? Well, like terms just means that they're the same things. So when we see a term out there, something like 4x squared y, the way you want to think about this is the way we think about things in the real world. Kind of like if I said 2 cats. Remember, the number out front tells you how many things you have. What's after it tells you what they are. Here I have 2 things. These things are cats. So over here, this tells me I have 4 things. These things are x squared y. Now, the only difference with this compared to that is we know what cats are. We just don't know what x squared y's are mentally, so it makes it a little bit difficult. So if we're talking about combining like terms, or what are like terms, if I have 2 cats and 3 cats, right, the number out front tells us how many we have. Here we have 2 of them, over here we have 3 of them, they're both cats, which means we should be able to put them together into one pile. Here I have 2, there I have 3, so I have a total of 5, and those things were cats. The same thing works over here when we have things that we're not used to seeing. So if I had 4x squared y plus 5x squared y's, well, let's see. Here I have 4 things, they're x squared y. Here I have 5 things, they're x squared y. They're the same things, they're x squared y. So when I add them together, that's what I got to end up with. How many do I have? Well, over here I had 4, over there I had 5, so I have a total of 9 x squared y. So terms are things that are added together. So up here we had 2 terms. These happen to be like terms because they were the same things. All right, so now that we know what terms are, we're going to get down to what's called simplifying expressions. All right, so we have another word up here that we're going to see if we understand, and it's the word expression. An expression in math is just a group of numbers, variables, and operations. Let's see if we understand what all these words actually are. A group of numbers. We all know what numbers are. Variables. Now, we haven't really dealt with a lot of variables this semester, but remember, a variable is just a letter. It's just a letter. In the operations, what we mean by operations is add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So anytime we're going to simplify an expression, you're going to follow these 2 basic steps. Step 1, clear all grouping symbols. Now the way you do this is use the distributive property. We'll take a look at how that works in a second. Then once you've got rid of all the grouping symbols, all you need to do is combine like terms. Once you do that, that expression will be simplified. So 2 quick steps. So let's take a look at a few of these. So our directions here are going to be simplify. So let's start out with these easy and make them a little bit harder as we go. All right, the directions here say simplify. Here we have an expression. In this expression, we have 3 terms. All right, by looking at this, the first step, we want to clear all grouping symbols. Well, we don't have any grouping symbols, so we move on to step 2 is combine like terms. do we have any like terms? Well, looking at each term up here, the first terms are x's, the second terms are y's, and the last term are also x's. So since those are the same things, I should be able to combine them. Here I have 4x's, I take away 8x's, which means I have negative 4x's, and then we still have 5y's. All right, now these two we cannot combine because they're different. These guys are x's, these are y's. Let's try a couple more. Okay. Here we have another expression. This expression has 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So since we have 4 terms in this expression, we want to see if we can simplify it. The easiest way to do this is following our steps. Clear all grouping symbols. We don't have any grouping symbols. Start with the first term. These guys are x squareds. Do I have any more x squareds up there? Yeah, the last things are actually x squareds. So here I have 4x squareds. Over there I have 7x squareds. So that gives me a total of 11x squareds. Move over to your next term. These guys are y cubes. Do I have any more y cubes? Yeah, over here I have some y cubes. So I have negative 5y cubes and 6y cubes. Again, one's positive, one's negative. So you take the difference between the two, keep the sign of the larger. So here I have 1y cubed. Now you don't need to write that 1 right there. It's kind of up to you whether or not you like to write it or not. All right, let's try a couple more. Let's see if I have 6xy plus 4x squared minus 2y. All right, looking at this expression, I have 3 terms up here and I'm told to simplify. First step would be clearing any grouping symbols. We don't have any. Combine like terms. Let's just start with the first piece. Here I have xy's. Do I have any more xy's up there? Well, right now the answer is no. If we look at it. However, this last thing has an x and a y also, but they're in the wrong order. However, we've seen, since that's multiplication, we can multiply in any order that we want. So I can actually change that to an xy. So a quick little note, always write the variables in each term in alphabetic order. So if you have a term that has multiple letters in it, make sure that those letters are ordered alphabetically. That'll keep this from happening when we have up here. So notice now we have xy's. Over here we have xy's. Here I have 6. I'm taking away 2, so I have a total of 4xy's. And the last thing I have are just x squareds. These two things aren't alike, so I cannot combine them. Let's try a couple more here. What if I said 5 times 2x minus 3? All right, let's see if we were told to simplify this expression. Well, the first thing we always want to do is clear grouping symbols. Now this time I do have grouping symbols, and we always use our distributive property to clear them. So this says 5 times everything on the inside, so I need to do the 5 times everything on the inside. So the 5 times the 2x gives me 10x, minus 5 times the 3 is 15. All right, now I have 4 terms. Let's see if we can combine any like terms. The first term is x's. If I look, that doesn't have any x's. Oh, here's some more x's, and that's it. So let's see. I have 10 x's and 3 x's, which gives me 13 x's. Moving over to the next term, that's going from left to right, those are numbers. Over here I have some more numbers. So negative 15 and negative 2. Well, they're both negative, so we're going to add them together and keep the sign. All right, quick check. Neither one of these are like terms, so that's as far as we can go. Okay. Let's try another one a little bit more complicated. See how we can do it. All right, really scary looking. Get us a little bit more room here. All right, if we're told to simplify this messy looking expression, your order of operations always come into play. So we do want to clear grouping symbols, so let's start. The first grouping symbols we get to is the square bracket, so we're going to work inside the square bracket till we can't do anything else. However, inside the square bracket we have parentheses, so where I'm looking right now is right here. I'm just looking inside that set of parentheses. Is there anything we can do inside of there? Well, there's not. So since there's nothing we can do inside those parentheses, we need to clear the grouping symbols. So to clear grouping symbols, we need to distribute. Now what's out in front here? We really don't see anything. But remember, there's always technically a 1 right there. So what are we going to be distributing? We're distributing a -1. So our 5 stays the same. -1 times x is -x. -1 times 2y is -2y. Copy everything else down. All right, so we cleared those grouping symbols, but we still have these square brackets right here. So we want to work inside of here till we get this down to 1 number. So we can combine some like terms on the inside. Let's see. I don't have any more numbers, so that 5 stays the same. I don't have any more x's inside there, so that's just an x. And here I have -2y minus another y gives me a -3y. All right, now if you notice inside the square brackets, there's nothing else that we can do, so we want to distribute. Now this is a little bit different than our distributive property because notice we have 3 terms on the inside there. Well, the distributive property says the same thing always. Everything inside of here needs to be multiplied by 2. So I'm going to take this 2 and distribute it to all 3 terms. So the 2 times the 5 gives me a 10. 2 times -x gives me a -2x. 2 times -3 gives me -6y. Copy everything else down. All right, let's see if we can combine some like terms. There's the first term's a number, so that's my only number, so that's going to stay just a 10. Moving over to my next term, I have some x's. There I have some x's, there I have some x's. Notice I have -2x and a +2x. So those things go away. I don't have any more x's. And the last thing I have left is that 1 term right there. Those guys are y's, so I have 10 minus 6y. All right, so you see, take your time, step by step, follow your order of operations. Let's do one more like this, see how well if you're following the idea. All right, here's one for you. It's about the same as this last one, so it's going to be pretty difficult. So hit pause, take a second, and see if you can simplify this expression. All right, if you're back, let's see how you did. Following our order of operations, we want to work inside of grouping symbols first. Our first set of grouping symbols we get to are the square bracket, but inside of there we have another set of parentheses, so I want to work inside of there. But looking inside of those parentheses, there's nothing we can do. We can't combine an x and a 4. So now we want to distribute. What's in front of those parentheses is a 3. So I'm going to distribute that. It gives me a 3x minus 12. All right, now we got rid of those parentheses. Now we're working inside of the next set of grouping symbols, these big square brackets. So we want to work that down as much as we can. So inside the square brackets, do we have any like terms? Let's see, I have a 2 and a -12. One's positive, one's negative, so we take the difference between the two and keep the sign of the larger. Here we have some x's. I have 3 x's and 5 x's, which gives me 8 x's. All right, again, I can't do anything else inside these square brackets, so we need to distribute. When I distribute, everything inside of here needs to be multiplied by 3. So that's -30 plus 24x minus 10. All right, now that we don't have any more grouping symbols, we can just combine any like terms that we have left. Here we have some numbers, negative 30 and negative 10 gives me a negative 40. And 24x is all we have left. All right, so simplifying expressions. You want to try to clear all your grouping symbols first. Make sure you're following your order of operations when they get really complicated. And then combine like terms. Remember, when you're combining like terms, the only thing that changes is the number out front. The things that they are don't change.